In tonight's news edition, His Majesty the King says the kingdom pins high hopes on pioneering youths in building the nation during a meeting with young Jordanians who represent success stories. The International Mideast Envoy calls for a new approach to lifting up the war-battered Gaza and describes the stagnation in reconstruction a crime. And Michelle Ferreiro, the world's richest candy maker, whose Nutella chocolate has sweetened the lives of billions of people, dies at the age of 89. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty the King Abdullah said the kingdom pins high hopes on pioneering youths to contribute towards building and ensuring the development of the nation in various fields. This came during a meeting with a group of Jordanian youth in the presence of Her Majesty Queen Rania, who represents success stories. King Abdullah said that Jordan, despite its limited natural resources, is rich in its qualified and creative human capital. He also stressed the importance of fostering the sense of responsibility towards the society and the country, and asserting that citizenship is about giving to the homeland rather than taking. King Abdullah said various state bodies, including the Royal Hashemite Court, are ready to offer whatever is necessary to help the young generation, especially in underprivileged areas. Queen Rania hailed the young men and women spirit of leadership and entrepreneurship and said it proved their ability to usher in a positive change in society. On the occasion of Veteran Day, His Majesty King Abdullah saluted retired military veterans. In a message posted on the Royal Hashemite Court social media page, His Majesty said that on this national day, I salute you, my brothers in arms, in the same manner that all Jordanians do. Your service and sacrifice are the embodiment of the true values of life, integrity and freedom, His Majesty added. The message went on to say that our brothers and sisters serving in the Arab army today are upholding the legacy of bravery, sacrifice and selflessness in defending the nation, the Arab cause and our beloved Islam. On this day, His Majesty added, we and all Jordanians reciprocate your loyalty with loyalty. Your sacrifices will be immortalized in the conscience of every Jordanian and be a proud hallmark that guides our future generations. A ceremony in honor of war veterans and retired servicemen was held by the Economic and Social Association for Retired Servicemen and Veterans. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour, deputizing for His Majesty the King, paid tribute to the country's martyrs. Mansour said retired servicemen and women are the heroes who defended Jordan for decades in this turbulent region. The Prime Minister spoke of His Majesty's effort to support the Palestinian cause and defend just pan-Arab issues, adding that he is tirelessly working to defend the true image of Islam. In 2012, and upon a royal order, the government designated February 15 as National Veteran Day in recognition of the service of retired military personnel. The General Command of the Bahraini Defense Force announced today that it will support Jordan with troops as a commitment to the effort of the international coalition to combat terrorism. A Bahraini Defense Force statement said the decision comes within the framework of bilateral defense cooperation between Jordan and Bahrain and is based upon the Joint Arab Defense Agreement. It said the Bahraini contribution was based upon bonds of kinship and cohesion and as a reflection of the long historic relations between the two kingdoms. The United States and its coalition partners conducted 3 airstrikes against Daesh terrorists in Syria and 8 in Iraq. A statement issued by the U.S. military said the combined joint task force leading the air operation has since yesterday conducted 3 strikes near Kobani in Syria, hitting a Daesh tactical unit and destroying buildings and 2 vehicles. While in Iraq, airstrikes near Tal Afar, Mosul, Baiji, Heat and Sinjar struck tactical units, vehicles, a bulldozer, buildings and a checkpoint. On the ground in Iraq, meanwhile, Iraqi security forces backed by Shiite Muslim militias repelled an early morning assault by Daesh terrorists on a dam area north of Baghdad. Security sources said Daesh terrorists attacked the dam area from the northwestern side using suicide car bombers to attack army positions. At least 9 militia fighters and 6 soldiers were killed in the fighting, which lasted about 7 hours. Separately, 3 people were killed when a bomb went off in the town of Al-Wihda, south of the capital. 4 bodies were also found shot in the head or chest in the district of Husseiniya on Baghdad's northern outskirts. Middle East Peace Quartet envoy Tony Blair said the world has forsaken the Gaza Strip and called for a new approach to lifting up the war-battered territory. On a short visit to Gaza, Blair said the stagnation in reconstruction of the enclave destroyed by the Israeli war last summer was a crime. Little of the total $5.4 billion pledged for Gaza's reconstruction at a Cairo conference of international donors last October has reached the territory. Blair visited a United Nations school where displaced Palestinian families who lost their houses during the war still take shelter. He said the current state of Gaza was a result of those in the international community who over the years have made promises that were not fulfilled, and those who offered leadership and failed to provide, including Israeli and Palestinian politics that have failed to bring peace, prosperity to Gaza.
For example, we started providing people with only tuna. It was only one can of agency.
All got a responsibility if the right assurances are given to make this thing work and to get the reconstruction moving and moving fast, to get a private sector back up on its feet again and give people some sense here that things are going to change. And we can start both with basic infrastructure and with the payment of the salaries.
I don't think it is acceptable for people in Gaza to live like this. And I think we all bear responsibility for it. The international community, the politics, all the surrounding issues. We sometimes forget there are real people that end up suffering.
In Yemen, the Houthi militias said they would not cave in to threats after Gulf Cooperation Council GCC countries urged the UN to act forcefully against its takeover. The spokesman for the Houthis said the Yemeni people won't cede power in the face of threats and insisted that Yemenis were engaged in a process of self-determination free of any foreign tutelage. Yemen's Gulf neighbors yesterday urged the international community to act forcefully over the deteriorating security situation in Yemen, including possible military intervention. The United Nations Security Council is expected to adopt a resolution urging the Houthis to step aside, release government officials, and begin UN-brokered negotiations. Police shot dead a gunman responsible for attacks yesterday on a Copenhagen cafe and a synagogue. The gunman was identified as a Danish-born 22-year-old known to police because of past violence, gang-related activities, and possession of weapons. In the first attack, the gunman shot 40 shots at a cafe and hours later attacked a synagogue. 2 civilians were killed and 5 police officers wounded in 2 separate attacks. Earlier today, police shot dead the suspect after he opened fire on them near a railway station not far from the sites of the previous attacks. Danish authorities have been on alert since gunmen killed 17 people in 3 days of violence in Paris last month on French satirical weekly Charlie Hebdo. France and Germany said a ceasefire in eastern Ukraine was being generally observed despite local incidents which needed to be resolved quickly. Guns fell unexpectedly silent at midnight across much of eastern Ukraine in line with the ceasefire agreement reached after a week of diplomacy. But pro-Russian rebels announced they would not observe the truce in the strategic town of Deblasev, where Ukraine army forces were encircled. We get more in this report.
A new day arrives in eastern Ukraine. At a checkpoint outside rebel-held Donetsk, residents rejoice hours after a new ceasefire begins.
In general, I feel relief after the ceasefire, finally. But so far, I do not know what will happen next.
Guns fell abruptly silent at midnight, though pro-Russian rebels aren't holding their breath.
Ceasefire? I doubt it. Maybe 2-3 days and they will start shooting again. This is all for show.
Ukrainian troops are not hopeful either. These troops stationed near Debaltseve say rebels still have their sights set on the strategic city.
We don't shoot. Can you hear it? But there are some individual explosions from the other side. They keep shelling with some intervals into somewhere close to here.
A pro-Russian rebel had already told Reuters that the truce would not apply to the city, where Ukraine's army has been encircled. Volleys of artillery were still being heard in the area in the morning, giving many reason to believe the ceasefire won't last long.
Biting cold and driving snow kept the U.S. Northeast in the grip of another major winter storm that made February the snowiest month in Boston's history. Blizzards forced the cancellation of almost 2,000 U.S. passenger flights, most of them at airports in Boston and New York, where gusts of up to 97 kilometers per hour were predicted. The temperatures by midday in Boston was -8 Celsius, but felt like -18 thanks to wind chill. The storm was a fresh blow for retailers who were looking to the long President's Day weekend and Valentine's Day to make up for subpar sales during the last 3 lashings of snow. Across the state, about 600 members of the National Guard were helping out during the blizzard. The man who gave us Nutella has passed away. Michel Ferrero, the owner of the global chocolate and confectionery empire Ferrero, died at the age of 89 after a long life of hazelnut chocolate-coated success. In the 1940s, Ferrero's father, who owned a bakery, created a paste of hazelnut and chocolate, which he then turned into a spreadable product. Michel inherited the company from his father in 1957 and rebranded the spread, giving it more international-sounding name, Nutella. Nutella's success soon followed by other international chocolate and candy hits, such as Ferrero Rocher, Kinder Surprise eggs, and Tic Tacs. Forbes magazine described Ferrero as the richest candy man on the planet, putting him and his family in 30th place on their list of the world's wealthiest people with a net worth of $23.4 billion. Defensive wizard Dikembe Mutombo was named one of 12 finalists for entrance into the Basketball Hall of Fame at Madison Square Garden as NBA All-Star Weekend festivities continued. Mutombo, who was honored 4 times as NBA Defensive Player of the Year, was among 6 players, 5 coaches, and a referee to make the short list for possible election in 2015. He was joined by 7-time NBA All-Star JoJo White, Tim Hardaway, Spencer Haywood, and Kevin Johnson, and 3-time WNBA MVP and 4-time Olympic gold medalist Lisa Leslie.
Sitting around all the great guys I see from Willis Reed, Dominic, Moses Malone, and Alonzo Mourning, and all those guys. I don't know how to express myself today.
Britain's Paul Bonham won the Red Bull Air Race World Championship season opener in Abu Dhabi, beating Australia's Matt Hall on the high-speed, low-altitude racetrack. Hitting top speed of 370 kilometers an hour, Bonham mastered the scorching temperatures and the changing winds to take top honors with a time of 57.7 seconds. Hall was a close second, just 0.084 seconds behind, while Pete McLeod of Canada came in third. The next race will be in Chiba, Japan in May. And finally, a quick look at the weather. Relatively cold conditions prevail tonight, with rain accompanied by thunder and hail in most regions, while winds will be westerly moderate to brisk. Snowfall is also expected in the northern and southern hilly areas. As for tomorrow, a slight drop in temperature is expected, creating cold conditions in most parts of the country, with a continued chance for scattered rain. Further south, the Gulf of Aqaba should expect fair conditions, while winds will be northerly moderate and the seas slightly choppy. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. His Majesty the King says the kingdom pins high hopes on pioneering youth in building the nation during a meeting with young Jordanians who represent success stories. The International Mideast Envoy calls for a new approach to lifting up the war-battered Gaza and describes the stagnation in reconstruction a crime. And Michelle Ferrero, the world's richest candy maker, whose Nutella chocolate has sweetened the lives of billions of people, dies at the age of 89. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching and have a good night.